Hello, everyone. I would like to share this PowerPoint presentation to cover the basics of properly using citations in student research. So why do we use APA? Well, APA provides us with a universal form of publication for professions as well as publications in journals. It allows for a familiar structure to follow for both the researcher and the reader. Readers can focus on the content where there's a consistent format, and a well-written APA format paper will build your credibility as a researcher. Who uses APA? Well, there's a broad spectrum of schools and writers and researchers and students that use APA, and you can see the businesses and business schools follow the APA format. Why are citations important? Citations build a writer's credibility and a researcher's credibility. If I were to be giving either writing about gravity or perhaps giving a speech about gravity, if I picked up a book and said, everyone knows that when I let go of this book, it's going to drop to the ground. Well, to give my statement credibility, I should cite Newton's law of gravity. And that theory is the reason when the book is let go and dropped to the ground, it will fall to the ground. So it provides us with an opportunity to share our knowledge that we've gained by researching versus just a personal opinion. When I'm grading research papers, if a student makes a statement that's not cited, my common comment is says who. So when a statement is made, if someone were to ask you, oh yeah, it says who, you would want for there to be a citation there. Again, we want to give credit to the authors, and by giving credit to the author of the material, then we are citing our sources and avoiding plagiarism. In-text citations. As you research, it's important to gather and maintain your research sources. And I'll go over in a moment how Microsoft Word can be your friend in keeping you organized with your research sources. And as you summarize your research from other authors and sources, you want to reference those sources within your paper. So these first two examples are two different ways that sources can be used in text. So the first example, the statement's made, and then the source, gas and boranos, are used at the end of the sentence. Notice that there is an open parentheses. Here's the two authors' names, the two authors' last names, separated by the ampersand sign, comma after author number 2, followed by the year of publication, close parentheses, and the period goes. Notice where the period goes. It doesn't go after the word topic. It goes after the citation. Or that's one way of doing it. The second example is a sentence starts with the author's names because these authors are outside of the parentheses. The word and is spelled out. Then the year is in parentheses. And the third example is showing an example of when more than one research publication basically comes to the same conclusion. So this is an example of showing credit and citing more than one publication, and it's separated by a semicolon. And I like this because 1984 is a long time ago. So, it'd be great if this said like 2019. And that shows the reader that, these are consistent findings from, a period of years, not just a fad or a trend. And so multiple, I like to see when multiple researchers say the same thing, it's great to give credit to more than just one. And it shows that you have an expansive, you've done an extensive amount of research. Okay, direct quotes. The best thing I can say about direct quotes is use them sparingly. So A professor once said to me, a direct quote should only be used when a statement is so profound that there's no better way to state it, or paraphrasing it would do an injustice. So these are two examples of using direct quotes. You're going to have access to this PowerPoint presentation, so you can come back and look at it later if needed. Note the page number. If there is a direct quote, obviously we have quotes, and they're also accompanied in APA format by the page number. That way I can go to my references, find this article, go to page 5, and see this exact quote. Other basic rules, this is just how one author would look. This is how two authors would look. And 3 or more authors are used by et al. And I'll go over, we have an APA example paper, and I'll show you how et al. Is used there in just a moment. The reference page follows the body of the research paper. So it's on a separate page. The word references is the title of that page, and that is centered. It's in bold, and the list is double spaced. References appear in alphabetical order according to the author's last name. Each reference should be indented after the first line, and we want to use a hanging indent. I'll go over an example of that in a moment. Referencing sources. So as you're conducting research, you may find a lot of your research comes from journals. If it is a journal that you read online, it should include a DOI. DOI is a digital object indicator. I'll show you, a digital object identifier. And I'll show you how you should obtain a DOI, and it has a certain format that DOI should follow. And we use DOIs so that if I conduct electronic research and another professor would like to access that article, then they will have a link to that article, the website to visit, so where they can view that article electronically if I did not obtain it through like a traditional library route. So no matter what source of information we are utilizing, those sources there's a format to reference and cite those sources, to reference those sources. And Purdue OWL provides us with the various formatting as the sources for different sources, so source materials. So I'm going to pause here and go to Purdue OWL. Okay, so here we are at Purdue OWL, and Purdue OWL is a website. It's in the PowerPoint that you will have access to, and Purdue OWL includes other formats other than APA. You can see here with MLA, Chicago, but we're focusing on APA. APA style has different editions like textbooks do. The 7th edition is the latest. It's pretty new. So new that you'll also notice on the website, there is also the 6th edition. And a lot of journals that are available in 2020 and 2021, even 21 will follow the 6th edition. The 6th edition will probably remain on Purdue OWL's website for another year or so, and then it will roll off, and you'll probably only see the 7th edition. But there are very few changes in the 2 editions. So if I were to, look at APA, I can go to general format. There's some general format rules. It'd be great to look at these rules. Are going to go into more depth than my PowerPoint did. Sorry, I'm getting a little lost here. So here's a general format. Those are great tips and guidelines. Here's some in-text citations, the basics. So this is, again, going to go into more detail on how you can, what in-text citations look like, from short quotations to long quotations. to quotations from sources without pages. And we'll use this a lot, your summary or your paraphrase. And the thing I like about Purdue OWL, it provides examples and typically more than one example. So if you're wondering, if I reference an article in a periodical, what format should I follow? You would follow this format. And if you are retrieving your article online, then here's your DOI, and it goes in this format. So this is the format from the author to the year to the title of publication. Notice the little details though. Notice where the commas go, where the periods go, what should be in parentheses. And then there's where, again, after the year, there's a period, the title of the article. The title of the periodical is in italics. So to properly reference an APA format, this is the guide. Here's an article in an electronic journal. Again, here's your article. After the page numbers, this is the DOI. So I can click on that link and that will take me to that article. And so other researchers can access our art. So this is going to go into more detail about DOI and formatting and when they are used. So articles from a magazine, a newspaper. If you were going to reference, for example, like other print sources. Let me go there quick. If you wanted to reference like someone's dissertation. So here's how you would reference a published dissertation, and then here's how you would reference an unpublished dissertation from a master's thesis or a PhD thesis. A dissertation or a master's thesis gives you examples on how to really reference anything that you have a question about. You just would want to come to Purdue OWL, go to APA format, and start going through these lists. And it also gives us a sample paper. So let's look at the sample paper. Okay, I think I may have to stop recording and pull up the paper. Okay, so here is a sample paper in APA format. Again, this has like a running head. Your professor may or may not require you to have a running head. What they're going to likely be focused on, well, for my classes, if you are required to do a running head, I will provide you with a Microsoft Word document that's formatted with the headers on them. I don't want you to get bogged down in creating a running head or using a header or a footer. I want you to get most comfortable with the what goes on a title page. So here's the title of the paper, the student's name, and the university. Again, here's an author note, not necessarily required, but if it are included, it goes on the title page. For my classes, there's no author note that's required. Again, this paper has a running head. It also has a page number that always appears in the top right-hand corner. This is also an abstract page. Some of my classes have abstracts required, some do not. Those instructions will be provided in class. Now we get down to the body of the paper. The body of the paper in APA format will start off with the title of the paper, and then it will go into the introduction, and then it will go into different sections of the paper. Sections of your papers will be provided in class. After the body of the paper is where we will see our references. Now, this sample paper only has 4 references, but something important to note, there are 4 references. These references, this isn't the only place that these references appear. They're going to be sprinkled throughout the paper. So if I were to do a control F for one of these references, I think it was Tidwell. If I do a control find for that function's not working. Okay, so I can probably quickly go to the paper and find where Tidwell was used. I'll say quickly, I hope so. I'm not sure why control F is not working. Maybe it's because we are in record mode. Okay. Well, while I'm looking for Tidwell, I want to point something else out. This sentence, it starts off with Cummings, Butler, and Prout. These are three authors. Notice here, the very first time this is used within the paper, they are all, oh, this is an abstract. Let me go down to the paper. So they're used in the paper in the opening section, the opening paragraph. All three authors' last names are used. Then within the next sentence, the line that starts with this paper examines the Cummings et al. So the very next time within the paper, that source is cited, it uses the et al. Because that's allowed when there's three or more authors. So if I'm looking through this paper, every author that's mentioned here should be listed in the reference section. Okay, here's Tidwell right here. Tidwell and Walther, 2002. So if they are listed within their paper, within your paper, they should be listed within the reference section and vice versa. I also want to go over Google Scholar. I use Google Scholar a lot. So if I were to do a Google Scholar research on emotional intelligence, I'm going to get over 3 million results. So let me back up and just say, first of all, sharing. Okay, hopefully I'm sharing Google Scholar. I'll check before this is published. Okay, so Google Scholar is an online library. I use it a lot because things are instantly accessed. So if I want to do a study on emotional intelligence, I get over 3 million results, excuse me. Well, that's a lot. So if my research is over emotional intelligence and effective leadership, I can narrow that down by putting emotional intelligence in quotes and effective leadership in quotes. Okay, so that I've narrowed down my results to 27,000. Now I can go into a custom range and say, I'll look at things between 2015 and 2022, and I'll search again. And now I'm down to 15,000 results. So any of my findings that have a link out to the right, so all of these are articles. And if we can access those articles online, they will be to the right and there'll be a link to them. So let's go to this very first article. Okay, and notice if I'm going to, when I reference this article in my reference page, if I use something from this article, this is the DOI that I would need to add to my reference. Let me go back and show you another little neat trick about Google Scholar. These quotes here, when you can click on cite, and it has already put this citation in APA format for you. You can right click and copy. Now, word of caution, this is not always, double check this to make sure this is the right format. Sometimes it is off. Okay, so I'm going to pause and go back to a sample Word document. Okay, so if I want to add in, let's say I'm going to use that reference that we just looked at on Google Scholar, I can paste that into my paper. Now that I've just pasted into the references. If I'm going to use this within my paper, I'm going to have to properly, there's only one author. So let's say I want to start my sentence with the author's name and state what this author suggested. Then that would properly be in text citation. And okay, I'm going to show you how I got this. So let's see if I can delete this. Sometimes when Word plugs things in. Okay, so let me show you how you can use Word to help you with in-text citations as well as your reference page. So we click on References from our menu. And from References, we click on Insert Citation, and let's add a new source. So my source is from a journal article. The style, make sure it defaults to APA, right here. So make sure APA is clicked as your style. Author, let's say this is Jones and Amy. And we can do Cooper Joy. And I separated the authors by a semicolon. The title is HR and Emotional Intelligence. The journal is American Management. The year is 2020, and the pages are from 30 to 50. Okay, and I say okay, and voila, the citation appears. Now, if I want to, let's say I've done that throughout the paper, and I come down to the end of my paper, and I want to plug in all of my citations in my bibliography. I can click on the word bibliography and click on references. Now it's going to give you some formatting challenges. The word references will need to be, okay, so let me back up. References should be, the word references is the title of your reference section of an APA paper. So it is on a page by itself. It is centered. An APA 7th, this is one of the changes between 6th edition and 7th edition. The 7th edition says to bold the word references. The 6th edition did not require that. So I've kind of started going ahead and bolding that just to get accustomed to the adjustments of the 7th edition. Now, because I'm recording it, it makes it sometimes a little bit more challenging to start editing, putting in the edits and the formatting. Okay, I'm trying to get rid of all these little extra blank lines, and somehow or another, I need to, okay. So what we want to do within our reference section is, number one, APA format says we should use Times New Roman in 12. Our font should be automatic. Click on font, click on automatic, click on paragraph, and we don't want any extra spaces. I take those to 0. We do want our references to be hanging indents, and the line spacing should be 0. Okay. And then click OK, and that should give us the format we are going to need to be in. And note that references go by the author's in alphabetical order of the author's last name. And that is how you can use Word to keep up with your in-text citations, as well as help you build your reference section in your bibliography. It's not titled bibliography, it's titled references, but that's how it's maintained and stored and accessed within Word. So I hope this video helps you in your writing and using APA format and in-text citations.